I can't believe I just did that, Hannah Miller whispered. Her voice came out thin, almost soundless, swallowed by the low hum of the refrigerator and the tired clicking of the radiator beneath the kitchen window. For a moment, she simply stared at her phone screen. The message had already sent. Hospital bill. Medication request. Emergency transfer link. Wrong number. Her thumb hovered over the screen as if she could drag the message back through the glass by force. In the corner of the kitchen, her 6-month-old son, Liam, whimpered from his car seat. His small face was flushed, his lashes wet from crying, one sock missing because he had kicked it off sometime between the clinic and the bus ride home. Hannah turned toward him quickly. I know, baby. I know. She crouched beside the car seat and pressed the back of her fingers gently against his cheek. Still warm. Not dangerously hot, the nurse had said, but enough to make Hannah's stomach twist every time his little body tensed. On the table behind her lay the hospital discharge papers, a pharmacy receipt, an unpaid electric bill, and a late rent notice folded in half because looking at the red letters for too long made her feel physically sick. She had meant to send the payment request to her older brother, Mark. Not because she wanted to ask, because she had run out of options. There were $23.86 in her checking account, for dollars and quarters inside an old coffee mug, a half carton of milk in the fridge, 3 diapers left in the pack, rent already 12 days late, and Liam needed the medication before evening. The doctor had spoken kindly, but kindness did not lower prices. It should settle his stomach, the pediatrician had said, printing instructions beneath fluorescent lights that made everyone look exhausted. But keep an eye on him. If he can't keep fluids down, bring him back. Bring him back. As if transportation were simple. As if bills did not stack. As if a mother could choose fear without also calculating cost. Hannah had nodded because mothers were expected to nod. Mothers were expected to understand dosage, remember timing, stay calm, sign forms, soothe babies, answer insurance questions, and not cry in front of receptionists. Now she stood in her small apartment, wearing the same faded gray sweater she had worn for 3 days, staring at a mistake that might humiliate her in front of a stranger. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. I think this was meant for someone else. Hannah's throat tightened. She typed fast. I'm so sorry. Please ignore it. I sent it to the wrong number. She hit send, then immediately wanted to throw the phone across the room. Liam whimpered again. Hannah lifted him from the car seat and held him against her chest. His little body relaxed for half a second, then tightened again, his mouth opening in a tired cry. I'm trying, she whispered into his soft hair. Mommy's trying. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Is the baby all right? Hannah froze. Her first instinct was fear. No, not fear exactly. Training. Single mothers learned quickly that kindness from strangers often came with conditions. A man asking questions about a baby was not automatically safe. A stranger offering attention was not automatically help. She looked at the screen, then at Liam. She should not answer. She should block the number. Instead, Liam gave a weak little cry that broke whatever pride she had left. He needs medication. I sent the bill to the wrong person. I'm handling it. Sorry again. She added the last sentence because she could not bear sounding desperate. Across town, on the 42nd floor of Meridian Technologies, Ethan Carter read the message twice. The conference room around him was all polished glass, black leather chairs, bottled water, and men in expensive suits pretending not to check the stock price under the table. At 40, Ethan had built a reputation on control. He did not hesitate. He did not overreact. He did not involve himself in personal chaos. But the words on his phone held him in place. Baby. Medication. Hospital bill. Wrong number. His chief financial officer was speaking about operational cuts in the customer support division. A presentation glowed on the screen behind him. Numbers. Projections. Savings. Reduced liabilities. Ethan looked at one line in particular. Third party. Claims processing restructuring. A dull pressure moved through his chest. He locked his phone, then unlocked it again. Unknown woman. Sick baby. Wrong message. He should have let it go. Instead, he typed, Where are you? The reply came after nearly a minute. Why? Ethan stared at that single word. Suspicion. Defensive. Sensible. He respected it. Because I can help get the medication faster. I'm not asking you to trust me. Send the pharmacy name. I'll call and pay directly. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, I don't know who you are. Ethan looked through the glass wall of the conference room at the city beyond it, gray under late afternoon rain. No, he thought. You don't. And perhaps that was why he answered honestly. My name is Ethan Carter. I run Meridian Technologies. I received your message by mistake. I can pay the pharmacy. Nothing else. Another long pause. Then the pharmacy name arrived. Not her address. Not her full trust. Just enough. Ethan stood. The room went quiet. Cancel the rest of this meeting, he said. His CFO blinked. Ethan, we still need approval on, not now. He walked out before anyone could ask another question. In the elevator, he called the pharmacy. His voice stayed calm, but his grip on the phone tightened when the pharmacist explained that the prescription was waiting, unpaid, and the insurance had rejected part of the claim. Rejected why? Ethan asked. Coverage issue. It happens. It happens. The phrase landed badly. Too familiar. Too easy. How much? The amount was small by Ethan's standards. Cruel by Hannah's. He paid it. Then he paid for delivery. Then he asked how quickly the medicine could arrive. Within 2 hours, the pharmacist said. Too long. Silence. Ethan gave his name again. This time, the tone changed. Arrangements became possible. Money did that. He hated how easily money did that. 10 minutes later, Hannah received a message. Medication is paid for. A courier can bring it in 20 minutes. You do not have to meet me. She read it 3 times. Then she sat down on the kitchen floor because her knees had stopped cooperating. Liam rested against her shoulder, sweaty and warm. His breathing had finally evened out, but his little fingers clung weakly to her sweater. Paid for. 20 minutes. No one had solved anything that quickly for her in years. That should have made her feel relieved. Instead, shame rose first. Hot. Immediate. Familiar. She typed, I didn't ask you to do that. The reply came quickly. I know. That made it worse somehow. Hannah swallowed hard. How much was it? I'll pay you back. You don't need to. I do. A pause. Then, all right. Later. Hannah stared at the word later. It was the first thing he had written that did not sound like control. A knock came 23 minutes later. Hannah opened the door with the chain still latched. A young courier stood in the hallway holding a small white pharmacy bag. Behind him, Mrs. Alvarez from apartment 2B pretended not to watch while carrying laundry. Hannah Miller? The courier asked. Yes. Medication delivery. She signed with one hand while holding Liam with the other. The pen barely worked. Her signature came out jagged. Mrs. Alvarez's eyes softened. You okay, Mija? Hannah forced a smile. Yes. Just a stomach thing. The lie was small. Necessary. Poverty made people protective of details. Every explanation felt like exposing a bruise. She closed the door, measured the dose with shaking hands, checked the instructions twice. Then once more because exhaustion made her afraid of making a mistake. Liam resisted at first, turning his face away, crying weakly. Please, she whispered. Please, baby. He swallowed some. Spit some out. Swallowed again. Hannah cried only after he stopped crying. Not loudly. Just silent tears sliding down her face while she sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by bills and plastic medicine syringes and the smell of cold coffee. Her phone buzzed. Ethan Carter, did it arrive? She wiped her face with her sleeve. Yes. Is he keeping it down? So far. Good. A few seconds passed. Then another message came. Did the hospital say why the claim was rejected? Hannah's stomach tightened. She looked at the discharge papers. Insurance problem, they said. I'll call tomorrow. Can I ask what insurance? That was too much. Her body went still. Why? Because Meridian works with several claim systems. I may know who to contact. Hannah read the sentence again. Meridian. She frowned, then reached for the folded insurance rejection notice she had shoved under the electric bill. At the bottom, in small print, was a logo. Meridian Health Processing Solutions. Her skin went cold. She looked back at the phone. You own Meridian? I own Meridian Technologies. Meridian Health Processing is one of our subsidiaries. The kitchen seemed to tilt. All the exhaustion of the day sharpened into one clear point. Your company denied my son's medication? There was no reply for nearly a minute. Then, I don't know yet. Hannah laughed once, bitter and breathless. That must be nice. She typed before she could stop herself. You don't know yet. I knew when I was standing at the pharmacy counter with my sick baby, and my card declined in front of 6 people. Ethan stood alone in his penthouse office when the message arrived. He read it once. Then again. Something inside him closed. Not defensively. Painfully, he had approved the restructuring 6 months ago. Faster automation, lower overhead, fewer manual reviews for small claims. The report had framed it as efficiency. He remembered signing the final authorization after a 12-minute briefing. He had not thought of a woman at a pharmacy counter. He had not thought of a baby. He had thought of Scale. Now Scale had a name. Hannah. He typed, "You're right." Then deleted it. Too clean. Too useless. He typed again. "I'm sorry. That should not have happened." Hannah stared at the apology. She wanted to reject it. Apologies were cheap when the person giving them had never had to choose between medicine and rent. Liam stirred against her chest. She looked down. His face was still flushed, but his breathing had softened. Her anger did not disappear. It simply had to stand beside relief. That was the exhausting thing about survival. Nothing arrived pure. Help came with humiliation. Gratitude came with resentment. Safety came with suspicion. She typed, "Please don't contact me again tonight." Ethan read the message and felt the boundary land exactly where it should. He answered, "I won't. I'm glad Liam has the medicine." Hannah froze. Liam. She had not told him her son's name. Her heart kicked hard. "How do you know his name?" This time Ethan replied immediately. "It was on the prescription when I paid the pharmacy. I should have explained that." "I'm sorry." Hannah breathed out slowly. Reasonable. Still unsettling. She placed the phone face down on the table and held Liam closer. Outside, rain tapped against the window. The apartment above hers erupted into footsteps, then a child laughing, then a man yelling for someone to turn the television down. Pipes groaned in the wall. Somewhere down the hall, a dog barked 3 times. Home. Not peaceful, but hers. Hannah looked at the late rent notice, then at the medicine bottle, then at her sleeping son. She had survived the day. Barely. That had to count. The next morning began with Liam vomiting on her last clean work blouse. Hannah stood in the bathroom at 6:12 a.m., rinsing pale fabric under cold water while Liam sat in his bouncer on the floor, fussing weakly. Her eyes burned from 3 hours of broken sleep. The daycare had already texted. "If Liam has a fever or vomiting, he cannot attend today." Hannah stared at the message until the words blurred. She worked part-time at a medical billing call center, which was ironic in a way that made her want to scream. She spent her shifts explaining charges to people who sounded just like her. Tired, confused, ashamed, angry at systems too large to punch. No paid sick leave until 90 days. She was on day 78. She called her supervisor. "Dana, I'm so sorry. My son is sick. I can work remote if..." "You're not approved for remote work yet," Dana said. Not unkindly. Just tired. "I know, but I can answer calls. I have my laptop." Hannah. That tone. The tone people used when they wanted to sound sympathetic while delivering something cruel. "We've talked about attendance." Hannah closed her eyes. "I know. You're a good worker. But probation is probation. I can mark today as unpaid emergency absence, but HR will review it. HR will review it." For words that could mean nothing or everything. "Thank you," Hannah said, because what else could she say? After the call, she sat on the closed toilet lid and pressed the heel of her hand against her mouth. Liam blinked up at her. His little face was solemn, as if he understood too much. "I'm okay," she told him. He kicked one foot. She smiled despite herself. "I'm lying, but thank you for believing me." By noon, the fever had gone down, but Hannah's anxiety had climbed. The rent notice sat on the counter like a threat. She checked her email. One from the landlord. One from daycare billing. One from Meridian Health Processing. Her stomach tightened. Claim status update. Denied. Again. Reason, insufficient documentation. Hannah stared at the screen. Documentation. She had provided discharge papers. Prescription code. Pediatric note. Insurance ID. Everything the clinic gave her. She called the number. After 17 minutes on hold, a woman answered. Hannah explained. The woman asked for the claim number. Hannah gave it. The woman asked for Liam's date of birth. Hannah gave it. The woman asked if the prescribing physician had submitted prior authorization. "I don't know," Hannah said carefully. "The doctor said it was urgent." "I understand. Unfortunately, without prior authorization, he's 6 months old." Silence. "I understand, ma'am." No, Hannah thought. You don't. But she also knew the woman on the phone was probably underpaid, timed, monitored, and punished for staying too long on calls. So Hannah swallowed the anger that had nowhere useful to go. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. "You can appeal." "How long does that take?" Standard appeals can take 30 to 45 business days. Hannah looked at Liam sleeping in his carrier. 30 to 45 business days. For a baby's stomach medication. Something in her went quiet. Not calm. Numb. Thank you, she said. She ended the call. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Ethan Carter, I know you asked me not to contact you last night. I'm sorry to interrupt now. I found the claim issue. It should not have been denied. Hannah stared. Then anger returned so fast it made her hands shake. Are you monitoring my son's medical records? No. I asked for an internal audit on the claim number connected to yesterday's pharmacy issue. I did not access medical details beyond billing status. That's supposed to make me feel better? No. She almost appreciated that answer. Almost. Another message arrived. The denial came from an automated rule my team implemented. I approved the department changes that allowed it. I'm responsible. Hannah sat very still. There it was. Not fate. Not a magical stranger. A man connected to the very system that had made her beg. Her throat tightened, but her words came sharp. So you helped me because you felt guilty. A long pause. Partly. The honesty hurt more than a lie. Hannah looked at Liam. His tiny hand rested open against the blanket, soft and trusting. She typed. Then do something useful with your guilt. Fix the system. Not just my bill. Ethan read the message in his office and felt something shift. People asked him for things constantly. Investments. Jobs. Donations. Favors. Access. Hannah Miller had asked him for accountability. He sat back slowly. On his desk was the report his legal team had prepared overnight. It confirmed what he had suspected. The automation system was denying small pediatric medication claims at a higher rate than projected. Not illegal. Not technically. The appeals process existed. That was how systems protected themselves. By making harm procedural. His assistant, Claire, stood near the door with a tablet. Do you want me to schedule the review for next week? She asked. No, Ethan said. Today. Claire blinked. With legal? With everyone. Ethan, the board can wait. Claire studied him. She had worked for him for 9 years and knew when something had become personal. All right, she said quietly. Before she left, Ethan added, find out whether we have a hardship intervention protocol for denied pediatric claims. We don't. He looked up. You knew that quickly. Her expression did not change. Because I asked for one 2 years ago. That landed. Ethan said nothing. Claire's voice softened slightly. Your brother was sick, Ethan. After he died, you stopped wanting to look at anything medical too closely. Everyone noticed. No one said it. He looked away. His younger brother, Caleb, had died at 27 after complications from a rare autoimmune condition. Not because of a denied claim. Not because of poverty. Their family had money. But Ethan still remembered hospital corridors. Consent forms. The smell of antiseptic. His mother crying quietly into a paper cup of coffee. He remembered missing Caleb's final voicemail because he had been closing a deal in Singapore. By the time he called back, Caleb was sedated. By the time Ethan arrived, his brother was gone. Since then, Ethan had donated to hospitals and avoided them. Clean guilt. Polished guilt. Public guilt. Hannah's message had dragged something unclean into the light. Fix the system. Not just my bill. That afternoon, Hannah took Liam back to the pediatric clinic because his vomiting returned after feeding. The waiting room was crowded. A toddler coughed into his sleeve. A pregnant woman argued softly with someone on the phone. The television, mounted in the corner, played a home renovation show no one watched. Hannah bounced Liam gently, one hand supporting his head, the other gripping a folder stuffed with paperwork. At reception, the woman behind the desk asked for her copay. Hannah's face warmed. I thought yesterday's payment covered. That was the hospital visit. This is clinic follow-up. How much? The receptionist told her. Hannah felt every person behind her become aware of her stillness. I can pay part today, she said quietly. The receptionist's face became professionally blank. We need the copay before the visit. Liam whimpered. Hannah looked down, then back up. My son is 6 months old. He was here yesterday. His medication isn't working. I understand, but policy. The word policy snapped something in her. No, Hannah said, still quiet. You don't understand. Everyone keeps understanding while nothing happens. The receptionist flushed. Someone behind Hannah sighed. Public embarrassment had a sound. A shift of feet. A throat clearing. A silence that turned sharp at the edges. Hannah reached into her bag and pulled out her wallet. 2 cards. One nearly maxed. One already declined at the pharmacy yesterday. Her fingers trembled. Then a voice behind her said, "Put it on mine." Hannah turned. Ethan Carter stood near the entrance, rain on the shoulders of his dark coat, his expression controlled but not cold. For 1 second, relief moved through her. Then humiliation crushed it. "No," she said. Ethan stopped. "I didn't come to take over," he said. "Then don't." The receptionist looked between them, suddenly uncertain. Hannah's face burned. She hated him for seeing this. Hated the clinic for requiring payment before care. Hated herself for having no better option. Ethan lowered his voice. "Let me step outside. You handle it however you want. If you decide you need help, I'll be there." That was not what she expected. He did not argue. He did not perform generosity in front of witnesses. He simply stepped back and walked outside into the rain. Hannah stood frozen. The receptionist softened, perhaps from guilt, perhaps from discomfort. "We can bill it," she said quietly. "Just this once." Hannah swallowed. "Thank you." She did not look at anyone as she walked to the waiting area. Through the glass doors, she could see Ethan standing under the awning, hands in his coat pockets, staring at the wet street. Not leaving, not entering, waiting at the boundary she had set. That unsettled her more than if he had pushed. The doctor examined Liam and changed the care plan. Mild dehydration risk. More fluids. Smaller feedings. Watch closely. Return if fewer wet diapers. More instructions. More things to track. More ways to fail. When Hannah stepped outside 40 minutes later, Ethan turned. "How is he?" "Tired," she said. "So am I." The honesty escaped before she could stop it. Ethan nodded once. "I'm sorry I came without asking." "You should be." "I am." Rain slid from the awning in silver lines. Hannah adjusted Liam's blanket. "How did you know I was here?" "The clinic called my office after the internal review flagged the claim. They asked whether Meridian would cover the follow-up." "So now everyone knows?" His jaw tightened slightly. "No, but I understand why it feels that way." She looked at him then. Really looked. Expensive coat. Controlled posture. A man who could make doors open with a phone call. And under it, something else. Weariness, maybe. Or guilt that had stopped being. Theoretical. "You can't just appear every time something goes wrong," she said. "I know. I don't need a billionaire guardian angel. I'm not one." "Good. Because guardian angels don't own claim denial systems." The words hit. Ethan accepted them. "No," he said quietly. "They don't." For the first time, Hannah saw his restraint crack. Not dramatically, not romantically, but humanly. His eyes lowered for half a second, and when he looked back, there was something raw beneath the control. "My brother died in a hospital," he said. Hannah said nothing. "I don't say that to excuse anything. It doesn't. I think I built distance around anything that reminded me of helplessness. And distance is dangerous when you're the person signing approvals." Hannah held Liam tighter. Part of her wanted to soften. Another part refused. Pain did not cancel harm. "I'm sorry about your brother," she said. Then, after a pause, "But my son still needed medicine." Ethan's face changed. Not wounded. Awake. "Yes," he said. He did. They stood in silence while cars hissed past on wet pavement. Finally, Ethan asked, "Do you have a way home?" "Yes." It was a lie. The bus would take 40 minutes and 2 transfers. Liam was exhausted. Hannah was lightheaded from not eating. Ethan seemed to know she was lying, but he did not challenge her. "All right." That irritated her. "You're not going to insist?" "No, why?" "Because you said you don't want me taking over." Hannah looked away. A bus groaned to a stop at the corner. Not hers. "I hate this," she said, so quietly she barely heard herself. Ethan did not ask what. Maybe he knew. The needing. The refusing. The being seen at the worst possible angle. "I can drive you," he said. "No conversation required. You can sit in the back with Liam. Or I can call a car that isn't mine." Hannah almost said no. Then Liam made a small, exhausted sound against her chest. Motherhood made pride negotiable in ways that hurt. "A car that isn't yours," she said. Ethan nodded. "Okay." During the ride, Hannah sat in the back seat beside Liam, watching rain blur the city windows. Ethan sat in the front passenger seat, silent. He had ordered the car, but did not use the moment to ask questions, explain himself, or earn forgiveness. That silence became the first useful thing he gave her. When they reached her building, he got out first, but did not open her door until she looked at him and nodded. Small permission. Small dignity. Inside the apartment, Liam finally slept. Hannah placed him in the crib beside her bed, then stood there longer than necessary, watching his chest rise and fall. Ethan remained near the doorway, not crossing farther in. The apartment was clean but worn. A couch with one sagging cushion. A stack of folded baby clothes on a chair. Grocery receipts held to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. A mug of coffee gone cold hours ago. A laundry basket full of things she had not had time to wash. Hannah saw him seeing it. Her spine stiffened. "Don't," she said. He looked back at her. "Don't what?" "Make that face." "What face?" "The one people make when they realize someone's life is harder than they pictured." Ethan absorbed that. Then he said, "I was thinking your apartment is warmer than mine." She almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unexpected. "Your apartment probably has heated floors." "It does." "Then, that was a stupid thing to say." "Yes," he admitted. The laugh escaped this time, small and tired. Ethan's mouth softened, but he did not smile fully. Good, Hannah thought. A full smile would have ruined it. On the counter, her phone buzzed. Landlord. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Then a text appeared. Rent must be received by Friday or formal notice begins Monday. Ethan saw her face change. "I should go," he said. Hannah nodded too quickly. "Yes." He reached into his coat pocket, then stopped. The hesitation was visible. "What?" she asked. "I was about to offer money. At least you stopped yourself." "I'm learning." She looked at him, exhausted beyond politeness. "Are you?" He did not answer quickly. "I'm trying to." Trying. The word was imperfect enough to be believable. Hannah opened the door. Ethan stepped into the hallway, then turned. "I'm holding a review tomorrow. About the pediatric denials." "Good. I'd like you to come." She stared at him. "No, you don't have to. Speak publicly. You could just tell them what happened." "No," he nodded, accepting it. Then she added, surprising herself, "They won't listen to me." "They might." "No," she said. "They'll listen to you feeling guilty about me. That's different." Ethan went still. She had named it precisely. Hannah's voice lowered. "I'm not your redemption project, Mr. Carter." For a moment, the hallway seemed too narrow for the truth between them. Then Ethan said, "You're right." She hated how often he said that. It left her with nowhere to put the fight. "I'll send you the policy changes after the meeting," he said. "Send them in plain English." "I will. And don't use my name." "I won't." She closed the door, then leaned against it. For the first time all day, she let herself shake. Not from fear. From the strange violence of being seen and still having to decide whether being seen was safe. The next week did not become easy. That mattered. Ethan did not erase Hannah's rent problem. Liam did not instantly recover into a smiling advertisement baby. Meridian did not become ethical overnight because one CEO had a crisis of conscience. Real life resisted neatness. Liam improved slowly, then had one bad night that sent Hannah into panic at 2 a.m. She almost texted Ethan and hated herself for almost doing it. Instead, she called the nurse hotline. She handled it. In the morning, Ethan sent a document. Subject, Pediatric Claim Review Changes. Draft. Hannah opened it while eating toast over the sink. Plain English summary at the top. Automatic denials paused for pediatric medication claims under age 2. Manual review required before rejection. Emergency override hotline proposed. Retroactive audit of denied claims from the past 6 months. Hardship liaison pilot program. Hannah read the list twice. Then she sat down. It did not fix everything, but it was not nothing. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan, I kept your name out of it." Hannah typed, "Good." Then, after a long pause, the hotline should include weekends. Babies don't get sick only Monday to Friday. His reply came quickly. "You're right. I'll add it." She stared at the words. Then typed, "Stop saying I'm right like it fixes things." Hey. Pause. "Ethan, it doesn't. But I'm trying to listen before acting." Hannah put the phone down. That answer stayed with her longer than she wanted. 2 days later, her supervisor called. "Hannah, HR reviewed your absence." Hannah sat at the kitchen table, Liam on a blanket at her feet, chewing the ear of a stuffed rabbit. Dana sighed. "They're extending your probation by 30 days. Hannah closed her eyes. "Okay. I'm sorry. I pushed for a warning only." "I understand." She did understand. That was the problem. Everyone was trapped inside rules someone else had made. After the call, she looked at Liam. "We're going to be okay," she told him. This time, the words sounded less like belief and more like stubbornness. That evening, Mrs. Alvarez knocked with soup. "You're too thin," she announced, walking in without waiting. Hannah smiled tiredly. Hello to you too. Mrs. Alvarez looked around. Where is the handsome suit man? Hannah nearly dropped the spoon. He's not. There is no. He just helped with Liam. MHM. No MHM. He looked sad. Hannah glanced up. Mrs. Alvarez shrugged. Rich people can be sad. Usually they make it everyone else's problem. That's comforting. I am old. I don't do comforting. I do accurate. Hannah laughed. It felt rusty. Later, after Liam fell asleep, Hannah opened Ethan's policy draft again. She found 3 places where the language sounded protective of the company instead of patients. She marked them with comments. Too vague. Who decides urgent? Appeal process still too slow. She hesitated before sending. Then she did. Ethan replied an hour later. These comments are useful. Thank you. She stared at the screen. No charm. No praise. No emotional pressure. Just acknowledgement. For reasons she did not want to examine, that made her chest ache. The first time Hannah entered Meridian Tower, she nearly turned around. The lobby was all marble, glass, and quiet money. People moved through security gates with badges and confidence. Their shoes clicked against the floor in a rhythm that made Hannah aware of her worn flats, her second-hand coat, the diaper bag over her shoulder because daycare had closed early due to staffing issues. Liam slept against her chest in a carrier. She had agreed to come only because Ethan said the hardship liaison team needed to hear from someone who had lived through the process. No cameras. No boardroom performance. No mention of her full name. Still, when she saw Ethan waiting near security, she almost hated him again. He belonged here. She did not. He noticed her expression immediately. We can leave, he said. I just got here. I know. I'm saying you don't owe them this. Hannah looked past him at the lobby. A woman in a cream coat glanced at Liam, then at Hannah's scuffed diaper bag, then away. There it was. The old social math. Who belongs? Who is tolerated? Who is helped? Hannah lifted her chin. No, she said. I'm here now. The meeting room was smaller than she expected. 6 people. Coffee. Notepads. 1 legal representative whose smile had no warmth. Ethan sat at the side, not the head of the table. Hannah noticed. The liaison director, a woman named Priya, spoke first. Ms. Miller, thank you for being willing to talk with us. Hannah adjusted Liam's hat. I'm not here because I'm brave, she said. I'm here because I'm tired. The room went still. Good, she thought. Let them be uncomfortable. She told them about the pharmacy counter, about counting money before leaving home, about calling insurance while holding a crying baby, about hearing standard appeal when the problem was immediate, about how shame made people quieter, and quiet people were easier for systems to ignore. She did not cry. That surprised her. Ethan did not interrupt once. The legal representative asked, Would you say the pharmacy staff treated you improperly? Hannah looked at him. No. I'd say your process made everyone act like the problem was me. Priya wrote that down. Ethan looked at the table. The meeting lasted 43 minutes. When it ended, Hannah stepped into the hallway and finally exhaled. Ethan came out behind her. You were very clear, he said. I know. A faint, real smile touched his face. Hannah saw it and looked away. Don't look pleased. I'm trying not to. You're bad at it. I've been told. Silence settled. Not awkward. Just full. Liam woke then, blinking up at Ethan with serious dark eyes. Ethan's expression changed before he could stop it. Something unguarded moved across his face. Hannah saw it. So did he. He looks better, Ethan said quietly. He is. I'm glad. She shifted Liam gently. Were you there? She asked. Ethan looked at her. Where? When your brother died. The question surprised them both. Ethan's face tightened. No. Hannah regretted asking, but he continued. I was on a plane. I had a voicemail from him. I didn't listen before boarding because I thought it would be another update. Another request to visit. Another conversation I didn't have time for. His voice stayed even, but the effort cost him. He died before I landed. Hannah looked at him for a long moment. There were easy things to say. She chose none of them. That's a hard thing to live with. His eyes lifted to hers. Yes. But it still doesn't make you responsible for every sick person. No, he said. Just for the systems I control. That answer mattered. Hannah felt it. The difference between guilt and accountability was small from far away, enormous up close. Weeks passed. Not softly. Not cinematically. Just days with dishes and diapers and work calls and Liam's follow-up appointments. Meridian's emergency pediatric review line launched quietly. A local advocacy group criticized it as overdue. They were right. Ethan did not send Hannah the article. Priya did. Hannah smiled at that. Her rent remained a problem until she negotiated a payment plan with the landlord. She did it herself, though Ethan had offered to connect her with a tenant's aid attorney after she asked for resources, not rescue. That distinction became important between them. He sent information. She chose what to use. Some evenings, they texted about policy language. Then sometimes about Liam. Then, slowly, about other things. Cold coffee. Bad hospital chairs. How grief made people efficient in strange ways. How exhaustion could make kindness feel threatening. One night, after Liam had fallen asleep and rain tapped the window the same way it had the night of the wrong message, Hannah wrote, "I used to be married." She stared at the words for a full minute before sending. Ethan replied, "You don't have to tell me." She typed, "I know." Then, his name was Daniel. He left when I was pregnant. Not dramatically. No screaming. He just decided he wasn't built for this kind of life. Ethan's reply took longer. "I'm sorry." Hannah looked at Liam's crib. "I was ashamed for missing him after." That was the part she never said. Not to Mark. Not to Mrs. Alvarez. Not even to herself most days. Ethan replied, "Missing someone who hurt you doesn't mean they deserved you." Hannah's throat tightened. It was almost too polished. Then another message appeared. That sounded too clean. "What I mean is, grief doesn't respect logic." She smiled faintly through tears. "Better." A minute later, he sent, "Caleb used to say I talked like a legal disclaimer when emotions got too close." Hannah laughed quietly. Liam stirred, and she froze. He settled. She typed, "Caleb sounds smart." He was. The next time they saw each other, it was not at a hospital or office. It was at a small community clinic fundraiser Priya had invited Hannah to speak at. Not as a symbol, as a parent advisor. Hannah wore a navy dress from a thrift store and spent 20 minutes in the bathroom before leaving, trying to decide whether the small faded spot near the hem showed too much. It did. She went anyway. Ethan arrived late, standing near the back of the room in a dark suit, not drawing attention to himself, though attention found him anyway. Hannah spoke for 6 minutes. Her voice shook once. She kept going. Afterward, a woman approached her with tears in her eyes and said her grandson's asthma medication had been denied twice. Hannah took her hand. "I'm sorry," she said. "Not the useless kind. The kind that stayed." Across the room, Ethan watched, not with pride, not exactly. With recognition. Hannah was no longer only the woman his system had failed. She was becoming someone who made systems answer. Later, outside under streetlights, they stood beside the curb while Mrs. Alvarez held Liam and told him, in Spanish, that rich men were suspicious, but this one might be trainable. Hannah pretended not to understand. Ethan definitely understood enough. "She doesn't like me," he said. "She likes you. More than she admits." "And you?" Hannah looked at him. There it was. The question beneath weeks of careful distance. She could have stepped around it. Instead, she answered like someone who had survived too much to lie politely. "I don't know yet." Ethan nodded. A lesser man might have looked disappointed. He looked relieved by the honesty. "That's fair. I trust you more than I did." "That's something." "It is." The night air was cold. A bus hissed at the corner. Somewhere nearby, someone laughed too loudly, and a siren wailed in the distance. Real life kept moving around them. Hannah wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm afraid," she said. Ethan's face sobered. "Of me? Of needing anyone?" He looked down. "I'm afraid of being needed too late." The words settled between them. Not romance yet. Something more fragile. More honest. Mrs. Alvarez called from the steps. "The baby is judging both of you." Liam was indeed staring at them with solemn disapproval. Hannah laughed. Ethan did too, quietly. It was the first time she heard his laugh fully. Not charming. Not practiced. A little broken. Warm anyway. Months later, Hannah would still remember the wrong message. Not as the moment a CEO saved her. That version was too simple. Too false. She would remember the hospital bill, the shaking hands, the rain, the pharmacy bag, the anger of discovering his company's role, the humiliation of the clinic counter, the meeting room where she said she was tired and made powerful people listen. She would remember that Ethan did not become good all at once. He failed. He overstepped. He apologized badly before learning to apologize better. And she did not become soft all at once. She doubted him, tested him, pushed him away. protected the life she had built from scraps, because survival had taught her that help could become control if you weren't careful. But slowly, something changed. Not magically, quietly. A policy changed. A claim was approved. A hotline answered on a Sunday. A mother somewhere did not have to beg at a pharmacy counter. Hannah found steadier work with a patient advocacy nonprofit, not because Ethan handed it to her, but because Priya recommended her after. Seeing what she could do, Liam grew stronger. He learned to clap, then to say mama. The first time he reached for Ethan, Hannah felt fear and tenderness rise together. Ethan froze, as if a baby's trust were more terrifying than any boardroom. Hannah watched him carefully. Then she placed Liam in his arms. Support his head, she said. I know. Don't say that unless you do. He adjusted immediately. Yes, ma'am. Liam patted Ethan's tie with great seriousness. Hannah smiled before she could stop herself. Ethan saw it. He did not comment. Good man, she thought, then corrected herself. Trying man. That was better. One evening, long after the crisis had become memory but not erased pain, Ethan walked Hannah and Liam back to their apartment after a clinic board meeting. The hallway smelled like someone's dinner, laundry soap, and old paint. Familiar. Imperfect. Home. At her door, Hannah turned. I still get scared when things go well, she admitted. Ethan nodded. I do too. That's not comforting. No, she laughed softly. He looked at her with that restrained ache she had come to recognize. Not demand. Not possession. Presence. I won't ask you for more than you can give, he said. Hannah believed he meant it. She also knew meaning it was not the same as always succeeding. That was all right. Real trust was not built on perfection. It was built on repair. I know, she said, and I won't promise more than I can feel. His eyes softened. That's enough. Inside the apartment, Liam babbled from his stroller, impatient with adult complexity. Hannah opened the door. Warm light spilled across the hallway. For a moment, none of them moved. There was no grand confession, no instant healing, no fairy tale ending tied with money and rescue. Only a tired single mother learning that accepting help did not have to mean surrendering herself. Only a powerful man learning that guilt meant nothing unless it became responsibility. Only a child between them, alive and warm, reaching one hand toward the light. Hannah stepped inside first. Then she looked back at Ethan. You can come in for tea, she said. His breath caught almost imperceptibly. Tea. Don't make it dramatic. I wouldn't dare. You absolutely would. He smiled then, small and real. Hannah let him enter. Not all the way into her heart. Not yet. But into the apartment. Into the evening. Into the slow, difficult beginning of trust. And for now, that was enough.